Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for attending our reseller partner demo and training of our new My BridgePay UX and enhanced boarding portal. I'm Lisa Stuckey, and I have with me Dana Wayne. She's our client relationship manager. I'm going to go ahead and start out by providing a brief overview of our new dashboard and a few key features in our UX, and Dana will then provide a walkthrough of some merchant boarding enhancements and do a small demo training of a merchant account and those features. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send us a question through the chat. We'll stop periodically and answer questions if we have any. And we can also, discuss at the end if there are any additional questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Dana's sharing her screen, so I am going to get remote control from her. Give us 1 second. Great. So as you can see, we've logged into my BridgePay, and what is displayed now is a new dashboard. Now this dashboard contains the settlement information for your portfolio, and depending on what level you are, we are logged in as a reseller partner. You're actually going to see all the gross sales and net sales and refunds for your entire portfolio. So that's the first phase of our dashboard implementation. We have future phases that'll be coming where you'll be able to drill down to a merchant group level or even a merchant account level to display information. And again, this is for settled batches. So if you have an open batch, one of your merchants, you're not going to see that information here. By default, it does default to the last 7 days, but this is customizable. So for instance, you could click on the list display, and you can, if you know that you have batches that have settled today, you could look up today's activity or yesterday's activity. And then you would see the settled batch information for your portfolio there. And of course, we have a line graph with just some trends that you could look at from a sales perspective. So for instance, we could change this to the last 30 days. And then you could see your trends for your merchants. And at the bottom, you'll see the breakdown by payment type for your organization. So again, the way that this updates at the bottom with the individual payment type breakdown, it's actually linked to the reporting date range at the top. So moving on, as you can see, we've changed a little bit of the look and feel. It's pretty user intuitive, but we have our navigation where previously in the current production environment, we had our navigation with icons across the top. We've created a menu on the left-hand side of the page. So what we've done here is we've made this expandable and collapsible to help for people that are viewing our UI on tablets, on their phones. So, this is really customizable in terms of what you want to view on the screen, as well as those who are using POS systems or maybe a laptop or a computer system. So this little icon here with a left arrow, you can just click that button and you can expand the navigation menu. You can collapse it so that it's viewable much easier on a tablet or a phone. And then you can go ahead or a smaller screen. And the default is kind of our mid-range sizing here. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you a brief overview of our account selector. You as a reseller, unless you're going to process transactions through the virtual terminal, which is now kind of an overlay payment form. And as you can see, I haven't selected a merchant account yet. You can also go to find transactions. This is new. And this allows you to just look up different filter options to find the data that you're looking for. So for instance, it's defaulted to the current date back 7 days. If I wanted to look at all the transactions for my entire portfolio, I'm not going to put anything in from account selector. But if I want to drill down, for instance, so this is just going to pull everything in. If I want to drill down to a merchant group, for example, I can just select merchant group and then find my merchant group. Let's see. I'll use Paris Bistro. Now what this will do is I'll be able to find transactions for this entire merchant group. So I could go ahead and search, or I could even drill down to a merchant account level and find my merchant account here. And once I select it, I'll be able to process virtual terminal transactions. I'll just click on that button. And if you notice, I'm staying directly on the advanced search page. Recurring billing, everything is pretty much the same. It's tabular, but the format is the same, so there isn't a learning curve, and all the current feature sets are there as they are today in production. Batch management, we've added a few enhancements here, and we do briefly go over those in our second webinar, which is our EMV virtual terminal, and we'll go over some reporting enhancements and batch management changes. And then, of course, our reports. So we have a little bit of a difference in how our reporting menu displays. I'm going to let Dana go over our account management. The one thing I did want to note that on the account selector, we're going to continue to enhance this feature, but to close this menu, you just click that button, and that'll close it out. And then to log off the system, you click your little person icon here. It'll show you what your current hierarchy is. You can clear the hierarchy if you want to quickly just collapse all of your, or clear all of your changes from the account selector, or you can just log off. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dana, and she is going to go through a boarding portal.
Thanks, Lisa. As Lisa mentioned, my name is Dana. I am the Client Relationship Manager for BridgePay, and I am going to go over the account management section of the new experience. Now, as I'm sure you all know, that as Lisa had mentioned, that boarding was done through the icon of merchant boarding. Now, boarding takes place in account management. If you click on account management, you'll see that everything is structured the same as it was in the previous version. Your sales agents, merchant groups, reseller users are available as soon as you click into account management. You still have, if you have sales agents boarded, or also known as sub-resellers to some, under your reseller portfolio, you would click on the sales agent tab to edit or maintain your sales agents and the merchant groups and merchant accounts boarded under the sales agents. Merchant group tab is still the same, just looks a little bit different and is a lot easier to use. If you reseller users, if you needed to create or manage any of your reseller users under your portfolio, you would do so still in the reseller users tab. And you can see all of your reseller users are displayed, and you can manage them from here. Within the merchant group, if you need to board a new merchant, you still board in the same fashion of you need to you have to first board the merchant group, and then you board the merchant accounts under the merchant group. If you're boarding under a merchant, if you're boarding a new account within a merchant group that has already been created, you would just query for that particular merchant group and board the new merchant account under that group. Or if it's a new merchant group, you would create merchant groups same as you did before. We are actually going to walk through creating a merchant group under a merchant account that we already have for time reasons. So as you're all aware, new feature is you're able to query for your merchant groups, merchant accounts, or anything that you're looking for through the filter in the top. So I'm looking for the Paris Bistro merchant group to board a new merchant account under Paris Bistro. And I started typing in the merchant group name, and I'm able to pull up my merchant group. Clear filter is easily done by just clicking clear filter. You can also search by merchant group ID. New feature is you no longer have to just click on the pencil to edit. You can either click edit or you can double click. In any fields, this works the same. So you can now double click to edit a merchant group, a merchant account, or reseller user, any type of user. The double click is also available for editing. So we're going to create a new merchant account under the merchant group of Paris Bistro. So the first thing we did was we edited the merchant group. Click on merchant accounts. Now you'll see the various merchants we have boarded under this merchant group. I am going to create a new merchant account within the Paris Bistro merchant group simply by clicking Create Merchant Account. You are still able to copy the business information from the merchant group. However, it's instead of a checkbox, it's now a slide bar. So we are going to create a new merchant account, and you can override any of this information. Lisa, we're going to leave you the owner of this. And override my address information for specific to this merchant account. Click Next, and I'm automatically going to need to create the merchant account user for this new merchant account. So again, I can copy from business info and override any of the information that needs to be overridden. And it is going to actually copy the information, the business information from the merchant account. As you can see, the information that I changed, that I overrode, applied here. So we are going to create the merchant account user. And Lisa, I'm not going to fail you. I am going to use your password information that you have drilled into my head. Okay, so once we get our username and our password in, we will need to select a role. If you hover over the roles, it should highlight the features available within the role, but apparently there's something not working on that one for me at the moment. I have to look into that in a minute. But if you click outside and you want to select a different merchant role, you can do so. And if you hover over the merchant roles, you'll see all the features available within each of those roles. Merchant account role actually has all of the features that you need. It's the most robust merchant account role that has all features available within it. So I'm going to go ahead and save my user with the merchant account role. Okay, so as you can see now, my merchant account has now been created. I'm within the merchant group of Paris Bistro, and I now have my Paris Bistro Gurney merchant account created with my merchant account code. Now, as you can see, this is the 12th merchant account that I have under this merchant group, hence that it ends in the number 12. Next step into creating the merchant account, same as previously, we go into gateway configuration. We have made some enhancements to the gateway configuration. So your batch submission is still manual, hourly, or daily is your choices. Now, please keep in mind, same as before, the batch settlement still occurs in the Eastern time zone. So even though I have the time zone selected as Central, I'm going to need to configure my batch settlement as if it were Eastern at this time. So if I want my batch to settle at midnight Central, I need to bump that out to 1 a.m. Batch settlement email notification, still the same except the slide bar instead of a checkbox. And you can, again, still add up to 5 email addresses to receive the batch settlement email notification. So I'm just going to enter me, and I'm going to enter Lisa, and I'm going to copy this so I don't have to do a whole lot of typing. So as you can see, you can still have multiple recipients of the batch settlement email notification. If you need to remove any of the recipients, you do so easily by clicking on the trash can to remove the recipient. Default action delay, if you hover over the question mark, it gives you a brief description of this feature. What the batch or the default action delay does in days is it sets the amount of time in days that an authorization will wait before an automatic action or auto reversal is taken against it. You turn this feature off by setting it to 0. Lisa, if you want to elaborate a little on that.
Sure. This affects auth-only transactions. So the default is 0, which means that if you have an open batch today and the batch settles, if you haven't captured that open auth, what will happen is it'll auto-reverse. However, if you put a delay on the auto-reversal, so let's say that we put it for 7 days because we want to be able to have a delay before that auto-reversal happens to allow us to capture in the future, then you would put 7. And it says days, but really, and that's just going on the fact that most merchants settle their batches daily. However, there are instances where some merchants will batch out multiple times in a day, or perhaps less frequently. So this is really batch cycles. So if you keep that into context, if you have a merchant that maybe they only batch out once a week because or twice a week because they have a limited business where they're only operational a few times a week, or they're seasonal. So it's just something to keep in mind when setting this up for a merchant on how they batch. You can put a maximum value of 30 and enter that. So that's how that works. And if you have an uncaptured sale auth and you settle your batch today and you had it set for 7 days from now, that open auth will just move to the next open batch period. So that's how that works. Go ahead.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, next up is the wallet site ID, which functions the same. This is used for recurring billing. If you need to create a wallet site ID for recurring billing, you would do so by clicking in the auto-generate the wallet site ID box, and it will generate your wallet site ID. And we are proud to present you with a new feature, which is the AVS and CVV settings. To turn on AVS and CVV settings, click in the slide bar and manage your AVS and CVV settings here. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You would enter the criteria as desired for how you want to manage AVS and CVV settings. If you'd like to turn that on, if you want to look for if the zip code doesn't match or the CVV doesn't match, if those features don't match, the transaction will be declined. Pretty self-explanatory, and you also turn that off here as well. Duplicate transaction checking. It's the same as before, it's just a little easier to read now. You can check for duplicate authorizations, which prevents the duplication of pre-auth transactions. You can check for duplicate sales, which prevents the prevents duplicate sale transactions. Sorry, having a hard time getting words out. And you can also turn on to check for duplicate transactions that contain a duplicate invoice number. Your ranges, you can check for all transactions on the same date or all transactions in a current open batch. And you also have the ability to check for all transactions in a custom time range. This works wonderfully if you, depending on the type of business, and you check, this actually works in minutes, so you can set the custom range in minutes for up to 48 hours. Say you have a coffee shop, you want the safety net of looking for or checking for duplicate transactions, but you don't want to prevent your customers from being able to purchase a second cup of coffee for the same amount using the same card. think of what time frame that someone would possibly need to get a second cup of coffee. In my mind, I would say about 15 minutes. So I would only look for duplicate transactions with the same card number and the same amount within 15 minutes and set it that way. So I still have the safety net of duplicate transaction checking, yet I'm not limiting myself. And once we get those established, click Save. And we can move on to processors. Okay, I don't know why I'm showing unsaved changes here. Let me try turning that off because I think I clicked it off and didn't go back in and manage my settings again. All right, something's not liking me, but we're just going to go ahead and move along. Okay, in the Processor tab, same as before, go into the Processor tab, Create Processor, select your type from the drop-down menu, and select your processor, and then you would enter your processing parameters in the Settings tab. Processing applications. Oh, I guess I got to go back and do this now. It's making me set everything again, Lee. What's it not liking on me? Let's turn off duplicate.
I don't know.
Okay. All right, so now in the Processor tab, now we can go into the Processing Applications. As you can see, we have removed the processing applications that didn't make any sense, that were unnecessary. And also, the gateway, everything in the gateway configuration is globally for any transactions that are done within the gateway, whether they're processed through a point-of-sale system, virtual terminal, or an integration. The processing applications apply to transactions processed via the virtual terminal. So in the Processing Applications tab, where you can turn on WebLink if your integration uses WebLink and you need to create an encrypted WebLink password, you would do so here. And you would put in your password that you just created and generate your encrypted password. Uh-oh, Lisa, maybe I didn't follow your function. Nope, I just had a typo. Okay, so I have generated my encrypted password. Next up is the My BridgePay VT. I'm going to actually save that so I don't forget to save it later and then it gets mad at me. Next up is to turn on the My BridgePay virtual terminal. Once you turn that to enabled, you will see that you have the Virtual Terminal Settings tab pops up. You can manage your virtual terminal settings by clicking on this tab or by clicking on the Manage Virtual Terminal link here. Both get you to the same place. In my virtual terminal settings, I need to select my interest fee, same as before. However, new feature is I can enable EMV transactions through the virtual terminal by simply turning it on. I can also turn on optional fee types, a convenience fee via flat fee or a percentage, or a service fee, which, as you all know, with the service fees go to a separate MID. You would need to select the service fee merchant account that is also boarded under this merchant group in order to use service fees. But we're going to turn that off for now and save. and your merchant account of Paris Bistro Gurney has been created. To back out of here, you will now see under your merchant group of Paris Bistro, we now have our new merchant account. If you need to edit or manage anything within a merchant account, again, you can click Edit or double click to edit the merchant accounts. And I also want to show you quickly merchant group users. If you needed to create a new merchant group user, you would do so within the merchant group user tab by creating merchant group users and clicking on create merchant group user. Now, if we go into and edit an existing merchant group user, and you go into the merchant account access tab, you can see all of the accounts that are enabled for this merchant group user. You can enable or disable the merchant group user from having access to each individual merchant account. However, one thing I'd like you to make note of, that when you do add a new merchant account, all of the merchant group users will have access to the new merchant account. Since I just added Paris Bistro Gurney, each merchant group user automatically has access. So if I needed to disable a merchant group's access to this account, I would have to go in and manage that and remove their access. Okay, Lee, let me know if there's anything that I have not gone on over here.
No, I think we've pretty much covered, so account management has some key enhancements. One is the naming convention. And two, we've had some some new enhancement features. We're going to continue to enhance my BridgePay. And so if you have suggestions or, some enhancements that you'd like to see, feel free to reach out to us and we can obviously do some research and see about implementing them in the future. And if you have any questions, or want to see this demo again or individualized trainings, we are going to have not just the webinars posted on BridgePay's YouTube channel, but also we'll have merchant boarding training, and we'll have reporting training and recurring billing training. And these will be smaller in scope as well. So we may have some virtual training sessions at the video level for just like 1 or 2 minutes if there's something specific you want to see. Any questions? Someone has a question about adding terminals. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Michael, do you want to? Let me see if I can unmute you and you can ask your question verbally. Hang on 1 second. Michael, I have unmuted you, so if you want to ask your question, all you have to do is unmute yourself. Hello? Oh, okay. I might be having.
Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. When you enabled EMV, what terminals and how do you add them?
Okay, so if you have a merchant that's going to process EMV transactions, when you enable it on a merchant account, the devices will have the PAX A series, the A60, A920, A80 available for EMV processing through the virtual terminal. And we do have a webinar scheduled for tomorrow to go through that. So if you haven't registered for it, let me know. I can send you the link. We also have the ID Tech Augusta. So obviously we have to go through EMV certifications. So if there's a specific processor that you need, we can talk about that. But you'd have to have those devices. They have to be configured, you know, with the BridgePay keys. And again, we can talk about that further offline. But that's what that is. So it's for those terminals and for processing through my BridgePay. So you would, once that's enabled, once you have your devices, you click on this little. Oh, Dana, you have control. Click on Virtual Terminal. And then what would happen is you'd have the device manager, and it's very easy to set up. And again, we're going to demo that tomorrow, so I don't want to get into that now. But if you'd like to see that, just you can send an email to me, lisa.stuckey@bridgepaynetwork.com, or if it's easier, just send an email to webinars@bridgepaynetwork.com, and I'll go ahead and send you that link to register.
All right, thank you.
Yes, and just to be clear, those are the only devices that we have configured for my BridgePay VT at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? All right. Well, have a great day. And like I said, we'll be posting our webinar out on the BridgePay YouTube channel. And we have other training videos out there, so feel free to take a look around. And we really hope that you enjoy the new My BridgePay. We're excited to present it. We're excited for all the future possibilities in enhancing it. And we welcome your suggestions. Thanks, everyone.